Hello and welcome back to our How to Paint series of videos. If you joined us last time, you'll know that we were painting a proxy model for the Dark Angels Deathwing Knights, I believe they're called. Now we've already done the first couple base layers here using a layer of Xandri dust followed by Ricard Flesh, and the green there is just Caliban green. We haven't done anything too fancy with it yet. But today we're going to be doing a little bit of touch-up work. We're going to be doing kind of the kind of smaller, harder to get areas, so you'll want to be using a smaller brush this time if you have one available with you. We won't be using All Reliable, as I quite so much enjoy, but instead we'll be focusing on much more delicate parts of this. So we're going to go ahead and crack open our paint pot here, try not to peek the microphone too much. For this we'll be doing a nice layer of Balthazar Gold, and I believe we'll just be doing mostly the kind of pauldrons and the shield. And again, you're going to want a smaller brush. This isn't perfect condition, as most of our brushes aren't, but for what we want, it should be able to get mostly a decent kind of coverage. And hopefully it'll keep us from spilling our paint around too much into areas that we don't want to. And we'll start off easy here. We're just going to be doing the edge of the shield. And again, you want nice thin layers, just a little bit of water mixed in, especially with your metallics. I find that they do tend to clump up a lot easier than your normal paint does. So having 2 or 3 thin layers of that isn't a bad idea. And another little tip for you here, I don't think I've mentioned this yet, and it does excuse me, it doesn't bother me much because I don't use expensive brushes anyway, so I'm not too concerned in the conservation of them. But if you're doing metallic paints, you'll want to kind of give that its own brush versus your just normal base paints, because it'll kind of ruin your bristles a little bit. The metallic paints like to stay in your brush even after you kind of rinse them out, and it's just not good for the lifespan of your brush, I guess. And infamously, I'm not using nearly enough paint to get onto my palette here, so we'll have to go back and get some more. It's okay though. It's much more manageable to control how much you have on your brush at any given time if you don't have too much on your palette. And again, I'm sorry with the weird angles. It seems like we're always having to do this. And we'll just make sure we get the underside with a nice even layer. The shadows here aren't helping. Let me see if I can move a light a little bit. I do have 2 desk lamps, which I'd recommend if you're trying to get, full coverage on your models. It helps with seeing the more shaded areas. But also, it's kind of nice every once in a while if you're working on a bigger model and it's taking you a bit of time. If you just kind of take your model out into a more naturally lit area, you'll see that not only is your lighting going to be much different, so your paint is going to look much different depending on kind of where you're standing at. It also helps you realize that you don't have to focus as much on the darker recesses of your model. Because in normal lighting, you probably won't be able to even tell whether it's just a layer of Abaddon black or whether you have, whatever your base layer is on top of that. So, experiment with that a little bit. Just kind of see what your guy looks like in different lights, and you want to think about, is my guy going to be on a display podium, or in a display shelf or case or whatever? And is he going to have full-on studio lighting, or is he going to be mostly played on the tabletop in a dark, dank basement like the rest of our dungeon-dwelling friends out there? And is he going to be very much more, lenient to a full coverage kind of paint job? So just, again, something to think about there. And now we are moving on to the pauldrons. If you're watching, I'm sure you've already seen. If you're just listening, that's fine too. It's kind of strange to do with a how to paint video, but I won't judge you either way. I quite like having a lot of background noise when I'm doing anything else, so I have a lot of videos to listen to in the background. But we'll be doing the pauldrons and just kind of focusing on the trim. We're doing our best here, although I'm failing miserably, to not get it on the interior of the pauldron too much, where we've already done the, I think Rekarth flesh is what we've been using. Yeah, look at that. And a layer of Xandri dust underneath. So, kind of avoiding getting our paint on that area would be nice, because then we won't have to do as much of a cleanup job afterwards. And I do kind of keep my cleanup off camera just for the sake of not taking too long. And, you know, it doesn't really teach you anything to go back over what we've already done. But it can take quite a while, and, you know, it can almost double the length of your painting time if you really mess up enough, which I do quite often. I make some mistakes here and there, and they do add up. So, you know, if you're saying that, oh, his videos only take, you know, an hour and a half to paint something, and my time is double that, don't worry too much. I do a lot of behind the scenes stuff rather. And we finished one, and it doesn't look too terrible, so we're going to go and switch to the other pauldron. And again, just doing our best to keep our paint pinned. Good lord, I can't talk today. Keeping our paint thinned. This is my first day home from work, and I'm a little bit sleep deprived. My daughter woke me up nice and early this morning, so we're doing the best we can with that. Thankfully, though, she is back to nap time, so I'm getting a little bit of free time just to pump some more videos out here. And I don't want to spoil my surprise that I have ahead for the next few how-to paints, but I am working on a nice 3D model that I printed. We'll have to go back and find whoever made it. I found it on My Mini Factory, if any of you guys are familiar with it. But it is a very nice Baldur's Gate 3 model, and it came in two different versions. It came in a, I think, 32mm size, and then it came in a 54mm size, and it's a big boy. I finally printed the bigger version. I've already done a painting of the smaller one, if you follow my Tumblr page, which I don't use too often, but I do kind of finish my finished paint jobs on there. You've already probably seen it, but I don't want to spoil it, so we won't talk too much about that. I just want to throw it out there that if you're a fan of Baldur's Gate, specifically the third one, or D&D in general, you might enjoy what we have cooking. So that's what the kids say these days, right? Let them cook. We'll try not to get too cringy while we're doing this. But now we will be moving back to the shield as the paint has already dried here, and trying to be even more careful. And again, we'll be using our kind of technique that I've showed off a few times now, just using the back of your paintbrush there. Mine has a curve in it, and that's okay. Some of them look like that. We won't judge, right? So you can go ahead and use that curve or just the edge of your brush and just lightly apply your paint. If you push too hard, or you're kind of forcing it, your paint will just kind of spread it everywhere anyway, and you don't want that. That's something that kind of defeats the purpose of doing this. So just very lightly brush your paint onto your edge there, and it should just kind of naturally flow onto that raised up area. Now, if you're doing a spot that doesn't have a raised edge, this technique really doesn't work. So just fair warning there. But this model happens to have one, so it makes it nice and easy for us. This technique also works for edge highlighting, which I don't really do much. I prefer dry brushing. If you happen to watch the Chaos Sorcerer video, the little red guy that we painted in that, we used a bit of edge highlighting on him. Good lord. And it came out okay. It wasn't terrible, it wasn't perfect, but it did the job for us, and it kind of gives our guy a little bit more of a unique look, right? A more finished, parade-ready kind of look. And that's about all we can ask for. I'm not perfect, I'm not a pro, I won't pretend to be, but, we're above beginner, kind of reaching into that intermediate phase, I would say. If you disagree with that, that's fine. I won't argue with you. I'm not Picasso, you know, I won't pretend to be perfect. But we are going to go back and kind of give a nice quick second layer to everything that we kind of missed here. And you might notice that I'm not doing the emblems here, and there's kind of a reason for that. I'll be going over them with a red, just to kind of continue with our standard Deathwing kind of paint job. And I have two different choices for red. I think I'm going to do corn red, because it's the darker color. And if I don't like it, I also have, if I could find it, Mephiston red, which is slightly brighter. So if the corn is too dark, we'll just go back over it and pretend it didn't happen. Alright. And as I think we're finished, I always find one more spot that needs to be finished over, and that is the inside of the shield. Now, as always, especially because this is a proxy, if you're painting your guy along with this video, don't worry about doing the same paint job. You're free to do whatever colors you want. If you want to paint your guy like ultramarines, cool. I highly recommend you do that. I like ultramarines. They're my main army. But just for the sake of a tutorial, we're going to be doing kind of close to box art as we can with all of our how-tos. And at some point, I would like to go back and do as many chapters as we can. We probably won't be getting all the, I don't know what you call them, sub-chapters? all of the little branches of the main ones. I'd like to do the main 18, but there are, I think, thousands of the smaller chapters, so, we probably won't get into any of those anytime soon. Maybe. Maybe that'll be like our big project, right? Our big end goal is to get all of the chapters. Might take a while, though. And now that we're working on the inside, it's kind of difficult, especially because it's in the shade. Let me see if I can rectify that a little bit without ruining our lighting too much. There is, and it's kind of hard to show, like a raised kind of inside bit here that goes all the way to the handle of the shield. So I'm going to be trying to follow along with that if I can. It's going to get a little bit messy, and already it's very blotchy, kind of patchy looking. That's okay. We're trying our best here with the weird kind of angle we have. And it's actually easier to see on the top there, how it just kind of raises up. So we will get some more paint on our brush. And just very quickly, again, I will fix everything that we kind of mess up off camera just to save time. I don't want to waste your guys' time. And at some point, I would kind of like to do a different series of videos where we still do painting, of course. I don't want to take away from that. But I think, and I might live stream it or something, just kind of doing like a full like squad every now and then, and just showing kind of raw start to finish kind of footage. Just more as like a kind of what we'll say is like a showcase of kind of everything that goes into it, the amount of time it takes, because you guys are seeing the shortened version, right? You're seeing maybe half of what I actually spend on this. So maybe we'll do that just to not only showcase how long it actually takes, but also to give us kind of a little bit more time to like talk in our videos. I kind of focus mostly on the actual painting and what I'm doing, and as a tutorial, that's kind of important, I think. But every now and then, I like to talk about lore, or just what I've been doing recently, what I've been playing, any movies coming out that I want to see. And if you watch my gameplay videos, you'll know I do a little bit more of that. So hopefully we can focus on that with that being said. So now we're actually going to focus on the tiny little aspects here. And I'm going to be using an even smaller brush for this, so bear with me. It might take a little bit longer. But we're going to be doing these little emblems that you kind of see on his shoulders. He has one on his knee, which might be hard to do. His hip pads, I guess. I don't know what you call those. They will be red. And actually, I just opened up the wrong paint. Forgive me. Try not to peek the microphone. If this is your first time watching for some reason, you're starting on part 3 or 4, whatever this is. I've explained this a few times before, but the Citadel paint pots, I like them. I know a lot of people don't, but they do peak the microphone for some reason, and it's not like I have it close to it at all. It's like all the way across my desk, but something about just the kind of noise that they emit when they open, a microphone really loves to pick it up, and it just blares it out. So I do try to avoid that as much as possible. And this is a very small little pauldron piece here. You can see I'm already messing up, but that's okay. We can fix that later. Using a very small brush. I'm trying not to shake my hands too much, although that's somewhat unavoidable. And we're just doing our best to get a nice first layer on there. I am able to kind of use the edge of my brush as I go along here, but not too well. It's at a very weird spot for me to comfortably do that. And get some more paint on our brush. Actually, take a little bit off. You don't want to overload your brush when you're doing this. It might be great for getting a one solid layer on, but with the overall texture of your paint, that's not great. And we'll be leaving that kind of bottom ribbony strip below. We might be going back over that with a kind of brighter white color. And if we're feeling real fancy, we could even write some text on there. I probably won't because my handwriting's terrible, and I don't want to butcher it for you guys. But maybe we'll try something. If you guys have any suggestions about what to write on that little ribbon there, maybe his name or something, if you want to name him, go ahead and throw it in the comments. Maybe at some point we will take a shot at that. But if not, that's fine too. I won't judge you guys. I'm not great at names either. And let's see if we can't finish up this horrible, horrible paint job we're doing. This brush is horribly bent, which doesn't help. I do need to get kind of a better small brush, but for what we're doing, it works. It just takes a little bit of effort. And again, don't worry about making too many mistakes. We'll just kind of go back over it. And it's hard for me to actually see what needs painted here. But we'll go back over it in post, and I'll fix it off screen, and you won't have to worry about it. Hopefully the next time that we do a video, it'll look perfect for you. Alright? Probably not, though. It's never going to look 100% perfect. Don't worry too much about it. I will say, though, that does look pretty butchered. So, don't be afraid to have something that looks like that, because it's fixable. And I think that's kind of the best thing about these tutorials, is I can showcase how bad it can look before the finished product, right? And excuse me, give you motion sickness there. I don't know what you call it, tripod, I guess, has almost no weight to it. I actually got a very cheap one, and now I regret it. Even just nudging it a little bit just sends it flying. It's not balanced at all. Actually, the way my phone is sitting on it, which I use my phone as a camera for now, just because it's what I had available. It's sitting at such a weird spot. I basically have it bent like the wrong way. It's really hard to describe, and it's even more awkward to use. But it's very counterintuitive. It's not great, but we're chugging along regardless. And here we're doing, I know it's normally called the Aquila, the like eagle thing that's usually on the chest here. At least if you're doing Horus Heresy. I know now it's like a skull and wings. I don't know what that's technically called, though. It's just some other imperial symbol. And We're struggling with our paint kind of drying too quickly on us, and a weird angle, as always. But we're just going to keep chugging along. If you happen to know the name of this little symbol here, and it's a proxy, so it looks a little bit different than it normally would, but throw it out in the comments. I'd appreciate it. I like knowing what things are called, especially in 40K. It's actually something I struggled with when I first got into the series. And here's a little bit of lore for you. I first joined up with the Gaunt's Ghost novels. I have gone back, and I'm currently reading the Horus Heresy, which I know a lot of people say to get into first. But man, there's a lot of things in that, and in Warhammer in general, that isn't really explained, like name-wise, like a Vox, right? For, I think, 3 books straight, I just kept hearing about the Vox, and they were always voxing each other. And I'm like, man, with context clues, it's kind of easy to figure out. But you never really know for sure until they really describe what it is. It's just a radio, right? If you're reading Warhammer and you don't know what a Vox is, it's a radio. But they also kind of use it like a GPS sometimes kind of deal. It's really, really unexplained, because, every author has his own way of using it. But there's tons of stuff like that. There's the computers. I forget what they call them, but they don't call them computers. And when they explain it, they basically say it's a screen with a machine attached to the back of it. I think it's a coagitator. I'm not going to pretend to even try. But it's just a computer. They don't explain that for quite a while. That's my one gripe with Warhammer. Say what you want about bad writing, about bad lore. I don't think there's too much of it to really worry about. But man, put a glossary in the books, please. An index, maybe. Just somewhere in there. The books are long enough, they kind of deserve one. And we're going to be doing one little last go around here with our red. It looks horrible, I know. It's a mix of me using this brush and just the angles and whatnot. And it's also very small and hard to see. So, it's going to look bad until we kind of clean it up a little, until we get some more layers on here. I won't pretend like it's pretty, because it's not. And we're going to do one last kind of pass on here, and then we might kind of call it for now. I don't want these videos going too long. I've got some more projects kind of in the works, and I'm not saying these are filler episodes, but these videos are kind of a standby until we kind of get some more paints and bases in. But what I have coming up is very fun. I'm really looking forward to it, especially my little D&D teaser I've been talking about. So stay tuned for it. Really strap in, because it's going to get pretty wild and wacky in the future. But for now, as horrible as it might look, I promise we'll fix it off camera. This is kind of our start. Next time we'll probably take a look at the shield, and we'll try to do the red on that. It's just going to be the 3 swords here, kind of emblem that they have. And overall, we'll be doing the staff as well. If we have time, we'll be doing these kind of little back pieces, and just kind of overall finishing up the model itself. And then the video after that, we'll probably be doing the base. And I know we haven't talked about it yet. I will be painting it. It's going to get some washes, I'm sure. But overall, we're inching very much closer to a finished product. So, if you guys like this video, don't feel hesitated to like, comment, and subscribe. I'd appreciate it greatly. If you didn't like this video, leave a dislike. That's okay too. I don't mind it. I'm open to criticism. So, any suggestions or complaints, throw them in the comments. I'll take all of it. Right? I don't mind. Otherwise, though, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.